Alrighty, and that is the new system. I'll introduce it to you piece by piece, beginning with these amazing little, and the only thing little about them is their physical size, McIntosh XR50 three-way, quote, bookshelf, unquote, speakers. I say quote because you'd be a moron to put these on a bookshelf, but I did buy a decent set of speaker stands that are made by a company called SolidSteel. They also make the cabinet that my equipment sits on. And the trade-off is, yeah, if they're sitting closer to the floor, the bass is almost too much. When you put them on the stands, you lose a lot of the bass that you think you had when they were on the floor, but it's hard to explain, but it's like tuning the speaker. When you lift it off the ground, it doesn't resonate as much with the ground, the bass frequencies, and so you lose a little bit of it, but you gain more clarity, more sort of rounded sound. But the way you make up for some of that, as you can see, I did something that they say you should never do, but I think they're talking to people who have larger speakers in larger rooms, and that is I moved it closer to the rear wall. And so the sound is just amazing, amazing. But anyway, small room, small condo, so yes, that is exactly why I'm using these speakers, but nevertheless, 300 watts, and they can easily handle that. Powering the speakers is a 450 watt McIntosh MC462. It's a quad balanced 450 watt per channel into all 2, 4, and 8 ohms. And then you have the McIntosh C1100 tube preamplifier. So this piece, or actually it's two pieces, it's one box, one chassis is the power supply and the sort of electronics and switching, and the other box is the amplifier and as well as the outputs. So it's more like the analog box. It comes in this nice sort of unique McIntosh, they call it titanium finish. If you look at the back, I'll try to see if I can get you a visual of the back. You can see that I got them covered with these brass covers, but all the connections are on the top box, and the bottom box has more of the electronic connections and the remote controls, as well as these two what look like old IBM computer cables that connect the bottom and the top box, including the power to the top box. So yeah, the power supply is just in the bottom box. Kind of a cool design, and it just sounds amazing. The distortion, the total harmonic distortion on this tube preamplifier is better than numbers you see on solid state preamplifiers. Of course, as sources, I'm using two different sources. I'm using the dCS Rossini DAC with the Rossini clock. This is a beautiful piece, made in England. I mean, pretty much everything you see here is either made in the US or in England. I guess this piece is in Japan. The cabinetry is in Italy. So unless they snuck it in there, I don't think there's any cheap Chinese parts in most of this stuff, but some of you will probably insist that the Chinese can make good stuff. It has not been my experience that they probably can, they just choose not to. We'll just leave it there. Anyway, the other source is this Accuphase, Japanese company, DP-560 SACD player, as well as I use it as a transport through the SPDIF cable into the DCS when I play non-SACDs, because I think the DAC is a good bit better, the DCS DAC, than the one that's on the DP-560, which is not a bad DAC. It's a ESS 9018 base DAC, and it's done really well with like some kind of a quad channel design that Accuphase has done, and it sounds great. The SACDs absolutely sound great. But when I'm playing Red Book CD type content or streaming, obviously, I prefer the DAC with the DCS. The DAC and the DCS is much better for me. As far as cables and stuff, most of my electrical cables are made by a company called Gutwire in Canada. A guy named Herbert up there, he's great. He actually made this, basically it's a power conditioning strip. It's really nice. You can't really tell from looking, but it's almost like it's carved out of a solid piece of aluminum. It weighs a ton. And then those are the cables. They're the B10 power cables. And then the main power cable that feeds that, the lower one there, is the SV12. And I have that going all the way around. You can see it goes all the way around and into here. And then the amplifier is plugged directly right there. You can see the amplifiers, the top one is plugged directly into the wall. That jack there is a dedicated circuit breaker, so 15 amps that powers pretty much everything here. And the highest draw by far is the McIntosh amplifier, which can take 11 amps. But I would think that would require 450 watt constant power, something thereabout, and we won't get there. Not to mention the 300 watt limit on the speakers, living in a condo. Typically, even when I play loudly, I'm hardly pushing 45 watts. Something really dynamic, classical music that has a lot of highs and lows, if you will. It'll be as low as milliwatts and as high as 50, 100 watts, but rarely do I see any, the needle going any higher than that. So there it is, my latest acquisition, kind of a life project to build this system, and here it is. Thank you for watching.